This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Friday, the 15th day of July in the year 2022. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The Parliamentary Committee of Privileges has completed its report on the protests in the National Assembly during the reading of the Natural Resource Fund Bill and the removal of the Speaker's mace, and is recommending the suspension of 8 opposition members of Parliament from the Assembly. While the Committee of Privileges is made up of both members of the government and the opposition, the 4 opposition members of the committee stayed away from the last 3 of its 5 meetings. With the Speaker chairing the meetings, the government members of the committee went on with their meeting and prepared a motion as part of the committee for the suspension of the 8 opposition MPs. The committee has recommended that Opposition Chief Whip Christopher Jones and MPs Ganesh Mahipal, Shara Duncan and Natasha Singh be suspended for 4 consecutive sittings of the Assembly for their attempt to prevent the second and third reading of the Natural Resource Fund Bill. Members of Parliament Vince Roy Jordan and Annette Ferguson have been recommended to face suspension from 6 consecutive sittings of the Assembly for gross and disorderly behavior during the reading of the Natural Resource Fund Bill and the removal of the mace from its rightful position. The committee has recommended that Member of Parliament Abita Sarbo Hali also face a 6-sitting suspension for unauthorized entry into the communication control room of the Arthur Chung Convention Center and destroying audio-visual equipment. And finally, the committee is also recommending that Opposition MP Maureen Philadelphia face suspension for 6 sittings for verbally assaulting a staff of the parliamentary office within the precincts of the National Assembly. The report and recommendations were signed by the chairperson of the Privileges Committee, Speaker Manzo Nadir, and will now have to be laid in the National Assembly as a motion for it to be adopted and action taken. The opposition MPs who were placed before the committee have denied the allegations that were leveled against them, and they questioned the motion that was presented to the House by the government that paved the way for the committee to look into the matter. They had made several requests for particulars of their infractions and the charges against them to be made known to them. They have also questioned the jurisdiction of the Privileges Committee to examine the motion, since they believe the motion was not properly passed. Member of Parliament Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford this afternoon told News Source that the opposition completely rejects the recommendation coming out of the Privileges Committee. He said the opposition members of Parliament were never allowed to appear before the committee and put up a defense. He intends to move to the court.
I believe that those charges and the recommendations for suspension it will be from the National Assembly are without any merit. The Privileges Committee did not afford those 8 members a hearing. It did not provide them with the evidence upon which they apparently would have been convicted by the Privileges Committee. This is against the fundamental tenets of justice. It is against the principles set out in the Constitution. We will certainly take the necessary steps to ensure that those proceedings, which will now find themselves into the National Assembly, are struck down by the courts as being null, void, and of no legal effect.
So essentially, the opposition is rejecting these recommendations coming out of that Privileges Committee.
Completely, Gordon. They're without any substance to them. For example, none of the MPs have been provided with any evidence against them. They said that one of the allegations is that Mr. Bita Haley went into a room and destroyed electronic equipment. She's not been asked any questions. She's not been given the opportunity to appear before the committee. And this is in light of the fact that each and every single member of the 8 MPs, would have specifically written to the Parliamentary Committee, headed by no other person than the Speaker himself, asking for an opportunity to come before the committee, asking for an opportunity to respond to the allegations, asking for an opportunity to appear with counsel so that they could defend themselves. None of these basic principles were honored. None of these basic opportunities as recorded in our law were honored or afforded to any of the 8 MPs.
The National Assembly is expected to meet next week The report is expected to be laid before the House at that meeting. More news coming up in just a moment.
How fast is fiber? Think fast. GTT Fiber has 3 packages with download speeds of 50, 100, and 150 megabits per second. That's fast enough to stream movies and music, to chat with Gran and Fran, to study, and more. What would you do? Upgrade to GTT Fiber today and don't get left behind tomorrow.
Guyana, we've returned. The International Building Expo is back, bigger and better than ever. The Guyana National Stadium will be transformed from July 22nd to 24th of 2022 as we bring you the most modern, innovative, and eco-friendly construction technology. Visit our booths and take a tour through the nation's infrastructure future as we bring you a slew of local and international exhibitors in manufacturing, architecture, engineering, financing, and other services in one place. Contractors, prospective investors, and homeowners. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to network, expand your portfolio, and learn about the most cost-effective building options for you. International Building Expo 2022, a new frontier for building a One Guyana.
Guyana is receiving more profits from oil production than ExxonMobil and its partners in the Stabroek Block. So far, the country has received over $700 million in profit oil and royalty. The royalty is paid by Exxon and its partners and is not recoverable.
While store owners and shoppers continue to express worry about a reduction in the supply of sugar for local shelves, the Chief Executive Officer of the Guyana Sugar Company, Narayan Singh, is denying that there is any sugar shortage facing the country.
Guysuco doesn't have shortage of bagged sugar. That's the 100-pound bagged sugar. What Guysuco has a shortage of is packet sugar, right? But you can only do packet sugar when we're grinding and we are in production. We haven't ground cane sugar since the end of May 2022. So we had stocks put aside, but a lot of all of it was sold out in the local market. And unfortunately, we got wind that some of our sugar is being smuggled to a foreign country via the backtrack. So we had to take control of that because Guyanese sugar has to go first to Guyanese.
The price for sugar has been fluctuating over the past few weeks, with some persons complaining of being forced to pay more than $400 per pound. While Guysuco has been faced with a drop in its production for this year, the company is maintaining that there is no shortage of the commodity.
IFLUT is grinding. That is 2,000 bags of sugar being produced today. 2,000 bags of sugar. So, to the rumor mongers who's trying to peddle that we don't have sugar, we don't have packet sugar. But packet sugar is going to be back on the market within the next 2 weeks. We're guaranteeing that. But what we do have is bagged sugar, and we can supply the market with bagged sugar.
The Guysuco CEO said the company is currently focused on ensuring manufacturers, bakers, and supermarkets are adequately supplied with sugar. Some supermarket owners and shopkeepers have said despite the assurances from Guysuco, they are still finding it difficult to source the sugar. Chief Justice Roxanne George today halted any move to start meaningful consultation between the President and the opposition leader for the appointment of Clifton Hicken to act in the position of Police Commissioner until the completion of the matter before the court challenging the President's appointment of a chairman of the Police Service Commission, without consulting with the leader of the opposition. 2 Fridays ago, the president, through the Minister of Governance, Gail Teixeira, invited the opposition leader to consultations on the appointment of the Assistant Police Commissioner as acting police commissioner. That invite came 3 months after the president, on his own, made the same appointment on the grounds that he acted out of necessity. On the 1st of July, Senior Counsel Roysdale Ford and Attorney Selwyn Peters filed an application on behalf of the opposition leader against the appointment of a chairman of the Police Service Commission in breach of meaningful consultation with the opposition leader. Opposition Chief Whip Christopher Jones had already filed a court action against the appointment of Mr. Hicken.
Get ready for the most anticipated launch of the year.
It's the official launch of Booker Ride,
Guyana's premier ride-sharing transportation service. And we're doing it big with a concert you won't want to miss.
featuring for the first time in Guyana.
International dancehall and pop superstar Jada Kingdom.
I can remember me did wanna hold up. I know they tell you this is something you're ready for. Go love the same way. Let's get married, done with the play dates.
Alongside soca sensation Nessa Pepe.
Red gal, whining red woman, whining red gal, whining red woman.
Bollywood and chutney princess Savita Singh. With performances by C. Kush and Drew Tobin.
Hosted by Gully Raz.
All the excitement is happening at
Tower Poolside on Friday, August 5th.
Guyana will come alive.
Tickets are $5,000 for general admission
And $20,000 for the exclusive VIP.
It's the Booker Ride launch concert on Friday, August 5th.
You won't want to miss it.
Doors and windows, Republic. Rooms and more, Republic. A brand new rug on the floor. Come to Republic, come to Republic. Whatever you need, you got it. Come through and get your mortgage. Live the dream with Republic.
95 to 100% financing, 50% waiver of negotiation fees, plus one lucky person gets their mortgage paid in full. Turn someday into today. Talk to Republic Bank about your low-cost mortgage today.
Get a chance to win a brand new Toyota Race when you apply for a home loan. Get pre-approved by applying online, in bank, or at the Building Expo. Apply now. Promotion ends July 24 and the drawing will take place on the final day of the International Building Expo. Here's your chance to win and drive home a Toyota Race. GBTI, we see Guyana through your eyes.
Good Show 36 will be held over on July 16 and 17 at the National Cultural Center. Tickets $2,500 and $2,000. Link Show 36 holdover July 16th and 17th. Get your tickets at the National Cultural Center.
The Alliance for Change is backing a call by its coalition partner for President Irfan Ali to call in independent investigators to probe the bribery allegations against Vice President Jagdeo. The bribe for contracts allegations were made against the vice president by a Chinese businessman, Xu Jinrong, who was secretly recorded by the US-based Vice News. The vice president has denied the allegations, although those allegations continue to haunt him. Some international media companies are now following up on the Vice News report. Today, Alliance for Change leader Kamraj Ramjatan said the promise by the government to go after investors who use middlemen when seeking government contracts is meant to distract.
This is but a strategy only to perpetuate corruption in high places. It is hard to chase or convict bad guys when you are babysitting the boss. Why go after the small fry like investors or middlemen when the entire corrupt scheme could be disfigured and discontinued by displacing the boss? In a triangular affair as this, the better policy is to criminalize the practices of that unwholesome politics of the boss, who makes friends with the Sues of the world and then give them access to meet them at his home. And then he tells them, I will look after the government side, Sue will look after the agreement side.
According to the AFC leader, the vice president should step down in order for a competent investigation to be done into the allegations. He suggested that the president call in the World Bank to probe the allegations.
President Irfan Ali should call in the World Bank to probe this matter. It will save the country monies too for a costly commission of inquiry and a certainly questioned report, which will be found unacceptable by half the population if it is done by local commission.
Ramjatan said the issue must not be dismissed since there are very serious questions surrounding the way the current government is doing business on behalf of the Guyanese people.
An ethical public figure will have offered some modicum of apology to the Guyanese people. But AFC notes his arrogance and aura of invincibility. As presently advised, the AFC will not be comfortable with a probe that is conducted by the police, knowing how they performed in the recent Quindon Bacchus matter, and for a number of other reasons. So too, even one which comprises of local commissioners.
For his part, Vice President Jagdeo has said his hands are clean and that he would welcome an investigation. Last week, the Vice News Agency released an extended version of its documentary piece on Guyana for sale on YouTube, with additional information and interviews regarding the alleged bribes. The Medical Council of Guyana and the Ministry of Health are taking the matter of the young man who has been impersonating a doctor seriously and intend to file a formal police complaint against him. The young man, who goes by the name Mikhail McLennan, had first denied that he has been posing as a doctor, then later claimed that he was a medical student at the University of Guyana. However, the University of Guyana has denied that he was ever a student at the university. The Medical Council also reported that he was never registered as any medical practitioner. And the Textile and Medical University pointed out that he was never a student there, after that university's name appeared on his resume. There are reports that a man who has been posing as a doctor for over 3 years once visited 2 different regional hospitals to work, but later left after questions surfaced about his qualifications and training. He had also attended medical outreaches for various non-governmental groups after presenting himself as a doctor. He was busted this past week after he started to volunteer with the Guyana Cancer Foundation, and questions again surfaced about his qualifications and training. On his social media pages, he posted a number of photos dressed in medical outfits and in attendance at medical outreaches. The chief medical officer has indicated that he is very concerned about the issue and wants it properly investigated by the police, since it is unlawful to impersonate a medical practitioner. Almost a month after it was denied a local content certificate to operate in the oil and gas sector in Guyana, Rams Logistics has resubmitted its application with additional documents that were requested by the local content secretariat. In a statement, the company said it resubmitted the application on Thursday, while thanking the officials at the local content secretariat for responding to the company's request and outlining the additional information needed to meet the requirements for entry into the local content registry. The local content secretariat has not indicated a timeline for a decision on the company's application. Back in June, Rams Logistics, which is originally from Trinidad and Tobago but now has a Guyanese as its majority shareholder, was left stunned by the decision to not issue the company the local content certificate. Without a local content certificate, Rams will be unable to operate in the oil and gas sector. It is the largest logistics contractor for the sector and has several contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars with the oil companies. Following the initial decision by the local content secretariat, the secretariat defended that decision and explained that the company had failed to meet all of the requirements.
The International Monetary Fund has thrown its support behind Guyana's plans to bring down electricity costs through the landmark Gas to Energy project. This project is being supported by ExxonMobil and is expected to bring great relief to the people of Guyana through a massive reduction in electricity costs.
Get a chance to win a brand new Toyota Race when you apply for a home loan. Get pre-approved by applying online, in bank, or at the Building Expo. Apply now! Promotion ends July 24 and the drawing will take place on the final day of the International Building Expo. Here's your chance to win and drive home a Toyota Race. GBTI, we see Guyana through your eyes.
Doors and windows, rooms and more. A brand new rug on the floor. Come to Republic, come to Republic. Whatever you need, you got it. Come to and get your mortgage. Live the dream with Republic.
95 to 100% financing, 50% waiver of negotiation fees, plus one lucky person gets their mortgage paid in full. Turn someday into today. Talk to Republic Bank about your low-cost mortgage today.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guyana's Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guyana's Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, a tanker carrying Russian oil arrived in Cuba yesterday, bringing supplies for the Caribbean nation's sputtering power plants and giving Russia an outlet for products shunned by the West. The US and Canada have imposed sanctions on Russian oil and fuel over its invasion of Ukraine, while Europe and the United Kingdom are moving toward an end-of-year embargo on Russian crude imports. The Liberian-flagged tanker arrived in Cuba carrying about 700,000 barrels of oil. The cargo is worth some $70 million at market prices. The vessel is owned by a unit of a top Russian company. Cuba, which relies on Venezuela as the main source of energy imports, has been forced to make expensive spot fuel purchases as its political ally struggles to meet its own domestic demand. Some cargoes have arrived from Russia, making the nation one of Latin America's largest importers of Russian fuel this year. Tonight, Barbados Today reports that Barbadians should start to feel some ease from spiraling food prices and electricity costs as early as next week, when a slash in the value-added tax on certain items is expected to take effect. Acknowledging the daily pressures experienced by Barbadians in coping with high prices of essential foods, electricity and gas, Prime Minister Mia Mottley on Thursday announced an $18 million package to bring much-needed ease to Barbadians. The relief measures saw an additional 44 food and household items included on a VAT-free list. In some cases, customs duties were removed from certain items, paving the way for reduced prices to consumers starting from next Thursday and ending on the 31st of January next year. In a near-hour-long address to the country, Prime Minister Mia Mottley said the minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, will deliver a ministerial statement in the House of Assembly next Tuesday morning to ensure that those things which require legislative amendments would benefit, along with the provisional collection of taxes that apply. And finally tonight, international news. U.S. President Joe Biden says he raised the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi during a meeting with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Mr. Biden is in Saudi Arabia to rebuild relations, having promised to make the country a pariah over its human rights record. The U.S. president said he made it clear that the killing was vitally important to him and the U.S. government. But he also said the two countries reached agreements on other issues. Mr. Biden's visit has been criticized as validating the Saudi government following the murder of the U.S.-based dissident journalist Khashoggi back in 2018. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was accused by U.S. intelligence agencies of approving the murder. The prince has always denied the allegations, and Saudi prosecutors blamed rogue Saudi agents for the murder. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight and this week. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.